to November. JD here. Where has the year gone? Man, it's flying by. I'm finding myself walking around the house. I see those Andy Williams commercials where he's got the sweater on and he's singing It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year. And I'm singing that song at 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know I'm in the groove. A little Benny Goodman tie-in there. But I'm just something about the weather change, the time of the year. It's the most wonderful time of the year. We always appreciate you taking your time and spending with us here on the program where intellectual anarchy is encouraged and nurtured for now. Jesse producing, Don, which is a name or a sound I'm going to be hearing a lot more later today as I'm undergoing one of my favorite medical procedures, an MRI. Oh, can you hear the claustrophobia just slam? Stop it. Turn that off. Stop it. Get that thing out of there. Why does the machine go Don? Are those the magnets in there slamming around or something, making all that kind of noise? I'm in the machine going, who's Don? Nobody seems to want to answer me, though. But Don is our producer. That's who Don is. He's also working the boards. Mike is screening the calls, emails at the website, and the poll question up there for you today. Herman Cain says he's being attacked by Dems because he's a, quote, unconventional candidate, and also attacked by Republicans because he's not a, quote, establishment candidate. He also says that race is a driving factor. What do you say to this? Nobody says he sees an Indian behind every tree. 13% say he's playing the victim card. 18% say he better dust off his real-world resume. And 69% say hat trick. He's right on all three. You can answer it there at the website here at 800-876-4123. I'm working with our legal department here at Talk Radio Network to try and convince the Herman Cain accuser to come on the program, or any of the TRN programs for that matter. I offered it up not just for my show, but for the hosts that are represented across the TRN network, Michael Savage, Laura Ingraham, Rusty Humphreys, Mancow, Phil Henry, any or all of the TRN programming that will pay whatever it is that the National Restaurant Association paid you, because supposedly she just wants to tell her story. I have a funny feeling she doesn't want to give up the do-re-mi, but we'll give you whatever that money is. You give that money back to the National Restaurant Association. And if she got the money in the 1990s, you know the money's gone. So maybe they can work out some kind of a 50-50 revenue sharing agreement. She gets half, the Restaurant Association gets half. The Cain camp says, all right, cool, we'll get you out of that with a confidentiality agreement. We won't sue you. And then you come on and you tell your story. I'd like to hear from her. Now, apparently, according to her attorney, there's some hesitancy on the part of the accuser who's wary of revisiting the episode. The sexual harassment claim from the 1990s is reluctant to talk about the episode in public. A person close to the situation said that no decision has been made about asking the National Restaurant Association, NRA, to release the woman from a confidentiality agreement that was part of the settlement. Cain led the trade group when the woman worked there. Accusations, the fact that the incident has become so public is very, quote, unsettling to the woman. He was asking the Restaurant Association to release the client from confidentiality agreements. However, the client now is somewhat concerned of how she's going to be treated in the press. Well, isn't turnabout fair play? I mean, think about how Herman Cain's getting treated in the press. And we're going to talk about that. But bring her on. What's it going to cost us? 25, 30, 40, whatever. And is it a ratings-driven kind of an idea? Sure, of course there is. This business, just about in every decision that gets made when you have a radio show, a TV show, or any business, it would be good for ratings to get her on the program. I know that Laura Ingraham, who's syndicated by the same company I am, Talk Radio Networks, she's a lawyer, and she's good. I mean, she said, just give me 5 minutes with her. Just give me 5 minutes with her. Okay, that's worth $35,000. But to the bigger point, if Herman Cain is doing as well as he's doing in the polls, and this has become a major distraction from his campaign, so far to the point that Herman Cain is really off his game with regard to communist China. Now, I think most people would know that communist China is a nuclear-capable nation, having done their first nuclear test back in 1964. But this sexual accusation, this harassment claim, this settlement, this agreement, And now the splitting of the metaphoric hairs between an agreement versus a settlement. He said one, but he meant another. They said one, but they meant another. And now we're getting into this whole notion of semantics. Herman Cain thinks that China is seeking to develop nuclear capability. I'd have to say that this whole thing has taken Mr. Cain off his game.
Well, yes, they're a military threat. They've indicated that they're trying to develop nuclear capability, and they want to develop more aircraft carriers like we have. So, yes, we have to consider them a military threat.
1964, Mr. Cain, first nuclear test, Communist China. I'd have to say that we've already reached the point that we can decide that Communist China is not our friend, even though Ted Turner said that Communist China just wants to sell us shoes. They just want to sell us shoes. And I guess they need a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier to bring them over here. I guess you can get here quicker when you have a nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. And you can bring more shoes, because certainly you're not going to stack the flight deck with aircraft or any kind of weaponry. It would just be, sneakers. That's all they want to sell us. Herman Cain's totally off his game. And he's doing very well in the polls. So why don't we take the opportunity to address this once and for all? Now, it's being addressed by Democrats. It's being addressed by Republicans. Michelle Bachmann, didn't she go into kind of hiding on us for a while there, Jesse? But then you got an email a day or two ago.
Yeah.
That Congresswoman Bachmann wants to come back on the program and back to the days when she used to go, "Hello, Jerry, it's Michelle." But then she left us, I guess, because we're not true believers of all things GOP. But now she wants to come back on. But she was at an event on Tuesday night with supporters at a Baptist church in Iowa. And even though she didn't mention Herman Cain by name as she stood in the pulpit, she said, "This is the year when we can't have any surprises with our candidate. We have to have a candidate that we can know, that we can put in office, we can trust with their record of what they've done and who they are." Okay, so let's get this accusatory woman made whole financially. Let's get the disclosure, the confidentiality agreement overturned. Let's bring her on the program. Just have a little jaw fest with her. A little coffee talk, so to speak. Maybe we can even have Mike Myers do it. A little coffee talk with the accuser. But you see, the accuser is now wary of revisiting this episode. I wonder why. You think maybe there's some photographs of her and her girlfriends with drunken tequila body shots down at Cabo Wabo?
God, I hope so.
I'm hoping. Do you think that maybe there's some pictures at a party where maybe she was, as some women seem to have a propensity to do, that when they get liquored up, they want to kiss other women? You think maybe that's out there? Or maybe we're going to come to find out that she slept with her professor, and that's the reason that she managed to boost her grades from a D to a C? Not only was she a lousy student, well, you can fill in the rest for yourself. But what are we going to come to find out about her? Now, why don't we put her through the test? Why don't we put her through the ringer? Why don't we find out what she's really all about? Why don't we find out what the accusations really were? Why don't we have the opportunity taken to get this put behind us once and for all? And if Herman Cain is a serial sexual predator, if Herman Cain is a pig, as the Democrats would like to say, then we should know that too. Because one of them has the story as they see it. The other has the story as they remember it. But somewhere between the two is the real story. Let's get the story out, and then let's get back to what's important, which is trying to figure out who's best going to be in a position to put the economy back on track, to get jobs going again in the country, and to move us towards some type of economic recovery, which the recovery is worse than the recession. Did you see the numbers on the recovery about incomes in the United States? Now, during a recession, you go, "Ooh, that's bad." And a recovery, like when a patient leaves OR, they get put in recovery, right? That means you're getting better. Is that not? You're recovering from what just happened, or at least that's how I understand it to be. But apparently, in the non-recovery recovery after the recession, the worst recession since the Great Depression, incomes in this country have actually gone down at double the rate that they did during the recession. Now, how do you call that a recovery? I guess the Obama administration will figure out a way to spin that somehow and say that those recessionary and recovery trends were inherited from the Bush administration. But the numbers don't lie. Politicians do. The Census Bureau's current population survey shows that the recovery has been harder on most Americans than the recession. The median American household income has actually fallen during the recovery, fallen even more than it did during the recession. During the recession, income fell 3.2%. During the recovery, down 6.7%. Now, I think if you're a nurse working in recovery, you'd probably have to look at the trend line and say it's not going in the right direction. But this administration seems to be data immune or reality free. So income has declined twice as much in the recovery as in the recession itself. They go back to 2000, American median annual household income, $55,836. Then you go to 2007, you look at these supposed recoveries based upon these supposed stimuluses that supposedly did something to help the economy. And when you look at the first 2 years of the recovery from June of 2009 to June of 2011, incomes fell an additional 6.7%. So from the start of 2000 to mid-2011, we went from $55,836 to $49,909, meaning the average American household real income dropped about $6,000. And it wasn't across the board. Those under 25, down 9.5%. Those 25 to 34, down 9.8%. Families with 3 or more children, down 9.5%. Families headed by part-time workers, down 11.5%. And that's despite the fact that the report includes unemployment compensation and monetary public assistance, both on a federal and state level, where now we come to find out that 15% of the people in the United States use food stamps, 45.8 million people taking advantage of the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the SNAP program. Mississippi, largest share of the population on food stamps, 21%. About 20% of residents in New Mexico, Tennessee, Oregon, and Louisiana also on food stamps. Not that everybody's gaming the system, folks, but politicians in those states have made it easier for residents to tap into the program by waiving requirements that limit the value of assets that food stamp recipients can have. So you can be Bill Gates, not have any current income, and politicians think that you should be able to qualify for food stamps because they don't want you to feel the hunger pain. And we know politicians feel your pain, and your pain is their gain when they can hand you a food stamp special nutrition assistance program debit card.
The Jerry Doyle Show.
So let's hand this accuser $35,000, which is rumored to be the number, and get her on the radio. Oh, on the radio. Have I already taken my Valium for my MRI today? I seem to be somewhat Rick Perry giddy. Did you see that story? He supposedly was hammered in New Hampshire. I don't believe he was, but he was a little animated. Your animated inclusions on the program at 800-876-4123. The FBI has drawn its beady eyes on MF Global and their collapse. Unemployment falling in 75% of U.S. cities. The Fed today meeting and saying no need to do anything right now because they see economic gains. There's worry about the deficit reduction panel. The Dirty Dozen has now been split into two camps of 6 and 6, each coming up with their own proposal. They couldn't agree on $1.2 trillion. Congress piling on 100 strong. Make it $4 trillion. If you wrote this as a movie treatment and sent it to Hollywood, they'd say that would never happen. Oh, it's happening. Join me.
The Jerry Doyle Show.